Now we deal with dynamics. Now, dynamics are basically the sense of movement or an emotional sense that we get from an image. For example, if I was asking you which of these two images was more exciting and more energetic, you would probably answer the one on the left. Whereas if I asked you which one is more dull, it's the one on the right. Unless you drop the vase, then it does tend to get a little bit exciting, especially if it's, expensive and in a museum and the alarms are going off and people are upset. Not that I would know. So let's start with how we lay out an image. This is basically why you take pictures in the layouts that you do, whether you realize it or not. A very vertical image will give a sense of character, a sense of grandeur often. And we use this for portraits because the people who are getting portraits done want to be remembered for some element of their character, of their behavior, and this is very effective for it. Also, we can alter the horizon. So if we move the horizon, for example, if the horizon is down here, that gives us a sense of deity, of spirituality, of the greater existence. If we move the horizon up here, it will give us a sense of the terrestrial, of someone who is very down to earth. Then we have horizontal. Now, horizontal gives us a sense of stability, of predictability. We like horizontal. Why do we like horizontal? Why are most corporate logos horizontal? It's because of our eyes. Our eyes, of course, are next to each other. Consequently, when you look, you tend to see basically a horizontal, well, really an ellipse, but bear with me here. Basically, you see a rectangle as you look around, as you exist in life. If our eyes were above each other, we would tend to appreciate vertical layouts more. So if you want something giving a sense of stability, of gravity, of reality, you go with a horizontal setting. This is why you take pictures of food in a horizontal format and pictures of people in a vertical format. Then we have the triangular composition or the pyramidal composition, and this gives us a sense of solidity. And this is key, especially in the Renaissance when we're dealing with religious pieces. You'll see a lot of triangular compositions because it's giving us a sense of foundation, in this case, the foundation of a church. And in this case, we're looking at St. John the Baptist, Jesus, and Mary, which are the basis of Christianity. And then we have curved lines. Curved lines will always be relaxing. We're comfortable with them. We like them. And those subtle curves just sort of draw us in. Whereas if I had a lot of jagged lines, it would give you energy, but it's usually the sort of energy that isn't real comfortable. It's sort of like when you're nervous, you have that nervous energy, although you don't want nervous energy, walking into an exam, something like that. And then we have trompe l'oeil. Now, trompe l'oeil is a French term which means trick the eye. And this is particularly difficult because we as humans are good at picking out things that don't belong. It's part of our evolution. You want to be able to pick out that saber-toothed tiger that's hiding in the grass and the grass doesn't quite look right. So with trompe l'oeil, the artist is challenged to create space that is realistic, but also the colors must be realistic. So it must be incredibly detailed and incredibly accurate to work. If it's off at all, if that shadow is off or the image of the person who is part of the painting is off at all, then we will immediately see the illusion and it won't work. It's sort of like going to see a bad magician. It also has everything to do with perspective. Now here you see this image of chalk drawing on a sidewalk, and from this perspective it works because we're where we're supposed to be. We're looking at it from that one point where it makes sense. But often in trompe l'oeil, there are a lot of points that don't make sense, like this one. where we're around the other side now. We're looking at the same image, but you'll notice how they've done it. They've tricked us by extending that leg. So this is all there to trick the eye. In the case of the sidewalk art, you have to be in one specific point, looking at it preferably through a lens, which is going to narrow your perspective and focus you appropriately. Finally, we have focus, the area of the image which is supposed to draw your eye. And an artist always, as we've talked about with implied line, the artist is always trying to draw us to a single point so that we know where to start the story and how to read it. In this case, this is a piece by Giotto. This is an early Renaissance piece. And what you're supposed to do, or what you should find yourself doing, is following this line of rock all the way down, and you will come to this scene here. And you'll notice that that is Jesus and Mary. This is the Lamentation. And from there, you're supposed to basically spiral out of the image, looking at the different people, looking at the angels, etc. Now, do you recognize that you're doing that? Not necessarily. Your eyes move hundreds of times per minute. But subconsciously, you are doing that. Artists have to understand the psychology of how we approach visual images. And so they're taking advantage of that so that we know that this is the Lamentation. This is Jesus having been taken off the cross. The woman at his head is Mary. So that's sort of the key element here. As we move out, we've got the mourners. Then we come to Mary Magdalene in red looking at his feet. As we continue on, we get to the angels who are mourning his death in heaven. So these last three sections really are looking at the broader ideas of design and ideas that we will be using to interpret pieces later on. And you won't necessarily use all of these ideas. You won't look at all pieces of art and go, okay, what kind of perspective is it? Does it use chiaroscuro? What are the dynamics? But you try to use as many as possible to describe the piece before using that information to develop your interpretation or what the piece means.